What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. So yesterday, we were expecting some big announcements in different presentations. I have to say, I think we got more than we were expecting overall, and we're going to go over the Square Enix presentation as well as Capcom's own presentation that they had. And we're also going to talk about some of the sales that have been revealed in Japan for Famitsu, with the Switch passing a major milestone and Mario Strikers turning in some disappointing but maybe expected results. Guys, if you enjoy these videos, make sure you hit that like button, helps out a ton. And if new here to the Spawnwave channel, make sure you're subscribed down below. And we're going to start today with free games. Well, kind of free. If you have Amazon Prime, we have Prime Day coming up. That's July 12th to the 13th. And they're going to be giving away essentially to all Prime members different titles. And actually, some of them are pretty good. If you take a look over here, this is from Wario64. Laid it all out very nicely with Grid Legends. That's actually a pretty good one to go ahead and just claim. It's a newer racing game. I don't think it did as well when it came out, but either way, a very interesting career mode with like live action story sequences. And then obviously, Mass Effect Legendary Edition. This has Mass Effect 1, 2, and 3, all kind of upgraded for modern playthroughs now. And then Need for Speed Heat, Star Wars Jedi Knight, Jedi Academy, and then Star Wars Republic Commando, as well as several other games you can see in this list here. And this all totals to more than 30 games overall. Like I said, I just want to bring this to your attention just in case you already have Amazon Prime, whether it's for shipping from the site or for the video streaming service. You can also claim a bunch of titles, that being July 12th to the 13th, so make sure you check them out. Also, we've been talking about these video game decompilations, these projects where people will go in, take a look at a game and reverse engineer it so that they can port it natively to PC or even at that point, other platforms. Well, now it looks like we are kind of moving to the PS2 generation. You can see this. This is a tweet that was posted up by Steve saying Jak and Daxter PC port. Not even kidding, literally Jak 1 running natively on PC, and it's got some new options in the menu too. That's right, they're going through the menu and it has a bunch of things that would make it look better on PC, and this is really cool, by the way. Jak 2 and 3 coming up next is great, but just the fact that we are kind of wading into the PS2 generation, obviously there are a lot of games there that could get this reverse engineering treatment for decompilation, but it's really cool to think about having Jak 1 that could get ray tracing, just overall better visuals with what PCs can do now, higher resolution, ultra widescreen, a lot of things that can happen here. So kind of cool. I mean, they posted the GitHub link. I guess you can check it out for yourself and play Jak 1 natively on PC, no emulator required. Oh, and more information continues to come out for Sonic Frontiers with the IGN First series that's running, including how long Sonic Frontiers is going to be. We can see this posted up over on IGN. With the implementation of the open zone, Sonic Frontiers boasts more content than previous Sonic games. Kishimoto says that it should take the average player between 20 and 30 hours to finish the game, while completionists can easily spend double the time to see everything. So you could be looking at like a 60-hour game for Sonic Frontiers, which is a lot more than I was expecting. Sonic Forces, not exactly a long game, so they keep talking about this open zone idea, which really sounds like Mario 64. Basically, where you have a hub world, but it's like a hub, like open world feel, like a very large area that then breaks off into zones, as they're saying, but it does appear like there's going to be a lot of stuff to do in Sonic Frontiers, more than we've ever had with the Sonic game. I'm really hoping this game ends up being good, better than Sonic Forces, and I think it will be just based on more and more information that continues to come out. I don't know if it's going to score, like they kind of wanted to score an 85 to a 90 on Metacritic, but hey, you never know. As they show more and more stuff, I will admit I am becoming more and more interested in Sonic Frontiers. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start right away with that Square Enix presentation that took place. It was about 10 minutes or so, and this was for the Final Fantasy VII 25th anniversary. That's right. Final Fantasy VII came out 25 years ago. That should make some of us feel pretty old, but we had some good announcements here. I think more than people were expecting even. And yes, that one big announcement that I was hoping for, we talked about it yesterday, was indeed there. We'll get to that. But first, let's start from the top. We actually had Final Fantasy VII Integrate. It's actually heading to Steam now, June 17th. And they also gave a little bit of a shout out to the Steam Deck, as it appears like they kind of developed with that in mind at least. So it should run well enough there on that device. They then talked about merchandise for a little while. There's like a Buster Sword clock, some figures, and even a vinyl for some of the music, which that's pretty cool. Then they went into some footage and announcements for their mobile games. That includes Final Fantasy VII, The First Soldier, Season 3, new maps, weapons, all this. And then they also talked about Final Fantasy VII Ever Crisis. That's Android and iOS with closed beta starting 2022. Then we got into the big time announcements. This one in particular was really exciting. I was actually shocked when they showed it. I was not expecting Square to go this far with Final Fantasy VII Crisis Core. That's right, the snitch called it. It is for all platforms. It's coming out this winter, which we'll come back to that when it comes to the release timing on this. But they are calling this Final Fantasy VII Crisis Core Reunion. They put out a full trailer that showed off gameplay, some cutscenes with Zack, of course, who is the main focus of this game. And they say it features updated 3D models, full voiceovers, new music arrangements, and I was trying to figure out if this was more of like a remaster or a remake. It kind of blurs the lines, but if you look at the gameplay and the visuals that we had on the PSP, I'm kind of thinking this is more of a remake, just overall. I mean, the PSP game did not blow up well to a larger TV. You could actually plug the PSP in to a TV if it was a 2000 or 3000 PSP and play it, and yeah, the pixels were pretty big. But this is really exciting stuff. I was so happy to see them actually make an effort here. I'm still waiting to find out more details around if there's going to be a physical copy available in the US or at all, pricing. All these details are still coming out as I'm recording this now, so I'm maybe double back to that as we get that info through press releases and all of this, but it looks good. If you've never played Final Fantasy VII Crisis Core, the gameplay is probably different than anything you'll play because it has like a roulette system where you'll always have numbers spinning at the top and you can get all kinds of effects from it, but at its core, yeah, it's more of like an action RPG with controlled skirmishes and all of this, but I liked what I was seeing there. I am really excited for this one. I think I'm gonna stick to the plan, get it digitally on the PS5, then get a physical copy on the Switch, if that is the case. Again, crossing my fingers there for that one. Now, they do say it is releasing this winter, and that does kind of leave like the release date up to interpretation. Like, would it be winter 2022 or winter 2023? And I think that's why they're just using seasons for some of these release timings, which they used it again for another game. But I'm hopeful it gets out this year. I guess we'll see as we go along, since Square and just games in general right now are definitely subject to change when it comes to releases for these games. But after the reveal for Final Fantasy VII Crisis Core Reunion, I thought that was going to be it. Like, that was going to be the big closeout. But no, they want to talk more about the Final Fantasy VII Remake series. We know it's going to be multiple games, and they gave us an idea now as to how many games we can expect, and even a look at the next title. Full trailer here with, again, some gameplay. This is Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. Again, coming out next winter for the PlayStation 5 specifically. It's the second title in this new Final Fantasy VII series, which this is not called Final Fantasy VII Remake, it's just Rebirth. So they have Remake, Rebirth, and then some other subtitle, I'm sure, to go along with the final part, as this will indeed be a trilogy. Now, in some of the follow-up quotes from the different developers, they are talking about a brand new adventure that they're setting up here with Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and they even go as far as to say, if you did not play the original Final Fantasy, or I guess even Final Fantasy VII Remake, you could still pick up and play this one. So it's going to be a story that is detached even from those, which makes sense because they kind of wrapped up the story in Final Fantasy VII Remake and said, hey, a brand new world awaits these characters now. Who knows what could happen? But from the glimpses that they showed, it's certainly compelling because Sephiroth is in your party. You saw Cloud and Sephiroth walking around. You see shots of Zack, so could have all kinds of stuff happening. Again, going between different timelines or realities. It's Nomura. Who knows what's going to happen here? But I'm excited for this one. Winter, next winter. Again, open interpretation. Could this come out in 2023, like November, December? Sure. Could it fall into 2024 and be like the first month or two there? Also very possible. But I have to give Square credit overall. This was not like a long presentation. It didn't drag at all. Sure, they showed some of the mobile games. That was like a minute or two. The whole thing was like 10 or 11 minutes long, and it was mostly loaded with titles that we were hoping to see, like Final Fantasy VII Crisis Core getting its remake remaster, and then seeing the next big game in the Final Fantasy VII Remake series. So, hey, things are looking good for Square. They have a lot of stuff in the oven now, and if you're a Final Fantasy VII fan, you're probably pretty happy leaving that presentation. Next up, let's talk about the Famitsu sales charts. These, of course, being the sales week to week in Japan, where they give us like actual hard numbers. And we did get a look at how Mario Strikers Battle League opened in Japan, as well as the Switch crossing a major milestone. Let's head over here to the games first, though, and we can see at the top, Demon Slayer was number 1 on the Switch, 90,885. Then we have Mario Strikers Battle League at number 2, 32,173. That's significantly lower than the more than 100,000 units that Mario Tennis sold when it opened, and I think the Mario Golf was like 80,000 or so. A bit of a decline for Mario sports games, despite the Switch continuing to build momentum when it comes to its install size. We'll talk about Mario Strikers a bit more here after we're done with the list. Then we have Nintendo Switch Sports, that 26,476, coming up pretty quickly on 500,000 sold just in Japan. Then we have Kirby and the Forgotten Land at 4, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, Minecraft, Ring Fit Adventure, Gran Turismo 7, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, and eBaseball. Moving over to the hardware, we have the Nintendo Switch at the top, 58,436. Big milestone, though, it has now crossed 25 million systems sold in Japan. Massive, massive stuff there. And it continues to creep towards like the DS that's over 30 million. So we'll see if the Switch can eventually get there. Then the PS5, 12,440. The Xbox Series, 6,242. The 3DS at 207. And then the PlayStation 4 at 78. Now, as for Mario Strikers, I would say this is a disappointing opening in Japan, even though it was still like 3,000 or 4,000 more than the Wii Mario Strikers charged when it launched. Way more Switch systems in Japan now than back in, what was that, 2008 or so? I think that Mario Strikers charge launched in Japan with how many Wiis were there. Still, though, it's a declining trend right now when it comes to the sports titles from Nintendo. And I see some online wondering, are people catching on to what Nintendo does here where, yeah, the game comes out and it just needs time to add more content. It's not content complete or even content rich at all at launch, and they'll wait to buy it later on. It's possible that Mario Strikers Battle League could continue to sell with different updates, and who knows, maybe a year from now, it'll be easier to recommend. But like you see even over on Metacritic, I mean, it has a lower score for a lot of these sports titles that have come out on the Switch, this being at 74. And then even the user score at 4.4, with a lot of people just saying, hey, there's not a lot to do in this game, and you can't do 4-on-4 online. Well, 4-on-4 where it makes sense, where your club of 20 people can get 4 people into a room with 4 different Switches and then take on the world. And not the case. There's more hoops you gotta jump through there. But really, I think it comes down to the content and a lot of people just saying, hey, it's fun, but I can't really recommend it for $60. So here we see Mario Strikers Battle League unfortunately suffer when it comes to the sales charts in Japan. Did better in the UK, but still failed to reach what Mario Tennis or Mario Golf was able to do in its opening in the UK. And this is soccer, football, which is very popular in Europe. So you figure if anything would do well for sports titles there, it would be Mario Strikers. Not really the case though. So here's hoping Nintendo and Next Level can start getting content out here pretty quick. We know a season is starting in a couple of days, so maybe they have a character that just happened to be ready a couple weeks after launch. Wow. What an amazing turnaround that would be. And in our last bit of news, let's talk about another big game announcement that took place yesterday that unfortunately was going on when the Square Enix presentation was happening, where Final Fantasy VII Crisis Core was getting its remake remaster. And then we hear about the next big Final Fantasy VII game in the series. And then here's Capcom running a Dragon's Dogma 10th anniversary stream, which they then made people wait to get to before in the other presentation. But either way, it's about 10 or 11 minutes, and they had developers sitting around a table talking about the development and the conceptual phases, and they showed off some cool artwork and had some fun stories, talk about Dragon's Dogma. And eventually they led up the last 30 seconds or so where they took off the jackets and they said, hey, look, we are indeed working on Dragon's Dogma 2, which I'm sure was very exciting for fans of the first Dragon's Dogma game. And I will say, the press release that Capcom sent out did have the RE Engine logo in it, which, yeah, I assume Dragon's Dogma 2 will be using Capcom's engine that has become widely popular within Capcom now. Also, that tells me that Dragon's Dogma 2 is probably going to look pretty crazy overall. But yeah, this is really cool to see. Like I said, I didn't get super into the Dragon's Dogma. Even when they did Dark Arisen, I was playing it. I was like, yeah, this is fun, I guess. But one thing I would like to see from Capcom, and maybe they'll go back and do it, is some sort of PlayStation 5 or Xbox Series patch for Dragon's Dogma Dark Arisen. They did it with Resident Evil, like the Resident Evil 2 and 3 and all of this. I would like to see that on the build-up to Dragon's Dogma 2, because Dark Arisen, while, I mean, it plays well enough, it could be significantly better and might be a good way just to get people on board with Dragon's Dogma once again as we work up towards the release date. I mean, who knows when this game's coming out? That all they had to show was their shirts. They didn't have any gameplay, a cinematic, nothing. So this is probably going to be a little while, but certainly good news to hear for fans of Dragon's Dogma. And before we go to the comment of the day, we're taking a look at the poll that I posted up yesterday, where I asked, have you played Final Fantasy VII Crisis Core? 76% said no. 24% said yes. Well, I have good news for everyone who said no. Awesome game coming out this winter. I'm hoping it does make it this holiday 2022. And it looks way better than how it did on the PSP, which that's pretty much the only way you can play it. Of course, you could emulate it, and that's one of the main reasons I anyway would be emulating PSP games, are to play some of these lost gems like a Final Fantasy VII Crisis Core. So always good to see these games get the treatment like Crisis Core appears to be getting, as it is more than I thought Square was going to do for it. But considering Zack seems to be a pretty major part of this new Final Fantasy VII series, or this trilogy, kind of makes sense that they would put a little extra effort in to bring it up to the new audience that probably missed it on the PSP. And we'll finish up with the comment of the day, as you're seeing here. This is from Robble saying, I totally agree with you on buying games over digital. I own a PC and Switch, and every Switch buy is a hard copy. You can also get pretty cheap Steam keys, so it kind of makes up for no physical. In a way, you can't argue against those Steam sales. I understand completely when price and convenience meet completely in the middle. What are you going to do about that? Hey, this whole series of games I can get for $10 and it'll download in like 15, 20 minutes or something. Yeah, it's much better than going out, buying a hard copy for 200 or 300% of that price and having to just spend time getting around and doing all that. And you still have to pop the disc in half the time to install it. With PC though, I think the transition was easier because we were already dealing with things like CD keys, where if you bought a game, you technically weren't able to play it unless you put this long string of numbers and letters in. And if you lost that, you basically just had a disc that did nothing other than install the disc and get you to that eventual wall where you had to put everything in. And yeah, so I think we will eventually get to a point where it's just an all digital future, and that's just the way it is. But I do believe Nintendo will hold out for their next generation system. Like, I just don't think we're going to be there completely yet, but after that, who knows? I wouldn't be shocked if Sony and Microsoft, when we start hearing about the PlayStation 6 and whatever the Xbox Series ends up being named, yeah, we probably will start to do away with those disk drives. I mean, we already have digital systems now. Although I will point out that Nintendo has been shipping games that you gotta download a sizable portion of them now, and I'm talking about those sports games, and well, we see what's going on with Mario Strikers currently, so who knows? I figure Nintendo is still all in on physical copies, but then they do things like Mario Tennis, Mario Strikers, and Mario Golf, and it makes me wonder a bit. And ladies and gentlemen, that's gonna do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit that like button. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about here today. Was all the big game announcements yesterday with Final Fantasy VII Crisis Core Reunion, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, or Dragon's Dogma 2. Let me know what you're most excited for there. And then also, Mario Strikers Battle League had a bit of a slow start out of the gate here in Japan. Are you surprised to hear that? Thanks guys for watching. Have a great weekend. I'll see you back here Monday morning, 8 a.m. Eastern Time for Newswave.